My name is Rosanne Vechter. I'm a formal national expert on secondment from the EMA, where I fulfill the role of academia liaison. Together with my former colleagues from the Research and Innovation Task Force and the Orphan Office, we have developed this tutorial specifically for academic medicines developers. In this video tutorial, we will highlight the benefits of Orphan Drug Designation, walk you through the different steps of the process, and provide you with information to evaluate your readiness to apply. We will also explain how to access IRIS, the Regulatory and Scientific Information Management Platform, which is the online secure portal to submit applications to EMA. We will guide you through the application form and highlight what information should be included and how the evaluation process of an orphan designation works. We will also explain what is protocol assistance and what questions can be discussed. And finally, we will address how to manage post-designation activities and where to find useful information to build your drug development strategy.
Academic sponsors of designated orphan medicines are eligible to benefit from a series of incentives. In no particular order, they include free protocol assistance, which is a type of scientific advice for sponsors developing medicines for rare diseases. Access to the centralized procedure. Orphan medicines are assessed for marketing authorization centrally in the EU. This allows companies to make a single application to EMA instead of going to each member state separately, and the outcome is an EU authorization valid in all member states. Orphan medicines benefit from a 10-year period of market exclusivity after authorization. This incentive protects the authorized orphan product from market competition of other similar medicines with similar indications. The protection can be extended by 2 years for pediatric developments which comply with requirements of the pediatric legislation. Incentives are also available in certain EU member states, for example, for clinical trials. Any person or organization which is based in the EU can apply for orphan designation, and specific eligibility criteria for fee incentives apply to academic sponsors and products at time of protocol assistance. We encourage you to get in touch with EMA to discuss the range of incentives available early in development.
In order to know whether you are ready for filing an orphan drug designation, you will need to make sure that the proposed condition has distinct pathophysiological, histopathological, and clinical characteristics. The condition is seriously debilitating or life-threatening, and that the prevalence is less than 5 in 10,000 in the EU. You have data from non-clinical models or from patients affected by the proposed condition, and that there is no authorized medicines for the treatment, diagnosis, or prevention of the sought condition, or if they are, that you have to demonstrate that the medicine provides a significant benefit to patients. We advise you to apply early in your development program for orphan designation, even before clinical trials are started. The agency offers pre-submission meetings with applicants to discuss these points in order to optimize the applications and to facilitate the review. The meeting can also be beneficial in obtaining information on protocol assistance or discuss other regulatory topics. These points will also be checked during the validation of your application, and you may be provided with recommendations for strengthening your application.
The Regulatory and Scientific Information Management Platform, IRIS, is the online secure portal for sponsors to submit scientific applications to the agency. It is connected to various databases that are managed by EMA. Before being able to access and use IRIS, the platform needs to know ahead of time who you are, what organization you represent, and whether your organization is registered in the OMS database, what user access role you need to have, and furthermore, for scientific procedures such as orphan designations, you will also need a valid research product identifier, in short RPI, and this will be gone into more details later. EMA Individual Account Management is a user registration system that provides individuals with EMA accounts. Via those accounts, the users access the applications that are managed by EMA, IRIS included. The IRIS users will use individual account management to obtain appropriate profiles with roles needed for their work in IRIS. Upon completion of this, you will need to consider whether you want to apply for an orphan drug designation as an individual or as an organization. In case of the latter, your organization must be registered through the Organization Management Service, OMS, otherwise you will not be able to affiliate yourself to an organization and request the appropriate IRIS user role. Registration of a new organization takes from 5 to 10 working days. Once you have registered your organization, the next step is to request access to IRIS, which is done via the EMA Account Management Portal. In order to create an application for orphan designation in the IRIS portal on behalf of an organization, you must have already registered for and been granted a manager role through the EMA Account Management Portal. For this, create a service desk request and attach the required documentation. Approval can take up to 2 working days. Applying as an individual is simpler, as you will automatically have the right IRIS role assigned, IRIS Individual User, which allows you to create and submit applications as an individual. Once your EMA account has been generated, you can log in IRIS using your EMA username followed by @id.ema.europa.eu and your EMA account password. You are now ready to use the platform. EMA uses Research Product Identifiers, RPIs, to track medicines through pre-authorization procedures, to connect submissions, procedures and regulatory entitlement for the same development entity. Companies and individuals that approach EMA for the first time with a new medical product and do not have previously assigned RPI will need to request a new RPI via the IRIS platform. To do so, you need the active substance in the product to be already present in the EMA public list of all substances. You can check if your substance is already registered by opening the substance list available on IRIS. In case your active substance is not registered, you will need to raise an EMA service desk request to register a new substance, which may take up to 5 working days. The request will be validated by EMA staff, and it may take a day or 2 for the validated RPI to appear in the portal for you to use when creating your draft OD submission. So it is a good idea to do this well in advance. The EMA has helpful guidance and training videos to show applicants how to use the IRIS platform and how to submit scientific applications, including one on orphan designation. Now that you have gone through all those steps, you should be ready to proceed with your submission.
So this section is about how to write the scientific part of the orphan application. If you head over to the EMA webpage that's called Orphans, Regulatory and Procedural Guidance and Forms, you will find this page has all the information you need for an application for orphan designation. From the administrative to the scientific part, from the electronic submission to taking it through the procedural steps from validation to evaluation to opinion. The application for orphan designation has a scientific part, and I'm going to take you through this part. This application needs to be accompanied with high quality data and robust argumentation, because the purpose is to convince the committee for orphan medicinal products. The scientific part has 4 important scientific questions that you need to address. First, the question of the condition. Second, the medical plausibility. Third, the prevalence. And fourth, methods or significant benefit of existing methods for the orphan condition. These requirements are based on the orphan legislation, and you will find a direct correspondence between the legal requirements and the scientific part of the application. On our webpage, there is a template for these important points. Please try to use this, it will help you. The scientific application should be concise and certainly less than 30 pages long, including the reference of publications that underpin your arguments and perhaps annexes with data from your unpublished experiments. The first scientific question is about the orphan condition. And the orphan condition is understood to be a recognized disease, or at least an established syndrome that comes with a set of symptoms and signs of disease. The condition needs to be described with how it is being diagnosed, what are its clinical and its pathological features. As you already heard, the condition has to be a life-threatening or chronically debilitating condition, and this has to be also explained. The condition definition should also include the purpose of the medicine, and that is to prevent the condition, to diagnose, or to treat it. So if you think of, for example, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the condition would be to treat acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The condition should not be confused with the indication, which should be a very specific wording. For example, medicine X is to treat patients with acute lymphoblastic leukemia who have had certain previous treatment or who are of a certain age or where the leukemia has certain features. In fact, an indication may be for a subgroup of patients, but the orphan designation is for the whole of the condition, in this case acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The guidance that is published also covers proposals for subsets of diseases as a condition, such as Philadelphia positive leukemia, a biological feature, but this is a particularly challenging proposal for obtaining an orphan designation. The second scientific question concerns the medical plausibility, and in this section you will need to discuss the pharmacology of the medicine that your development project is about, its mechanism of action or mechanisms of action that are relevant for the condition, and the data that exist or that you are obtaining on this medicinal product. And this type of data can include non-clinical disease model data, where models were exposed to the medicine and possibly controls, but it can also comprise data that was generated in patients who are affected by the condition. The third scientific question is about the prevalence of the condition. And the prevalence is an epidemiological index, and it's often expressed as a proportion. And to be qualifying as an orphan medicine, this proportion should be that no more than 5 in 10,000 people in the European Union are affected by the condition. So the numerator is the number of people who are affected by the condition, and the denominator is the number of the population in the whole of the European Union. There are different ways to express the prevalence in the European Union, for example, as complete prevalence estimate, and this would include the number of persons alive who were ever diagnosed with the condition, irrespective of their current stage of the disease or disease state, and this is typically what is appropriate for chronic diseases. Another way to report the prevalence is the partial prevalence, such as when only patients diagnosed in the previous 5 years are relevant to be looked at because the disease is not chronic, such as cancers that could be cured or would be considered cured after 5 years from diagnosis onwards. There are also different methods to be considered for calculating the prevalence, and for this calculation it is important to have high quality data on the prevalence of patients, such as from peer-reviewed publications, from registries that hold quality data and that can be used for reporting the prevalence figures. It's important to consider how to combine these sources of data and quantitatively summarize them so that an estimate of the prevalence for the whole of the European Union can be calculated and put forward in the application. The fourth scientific question is about other methods to diagnose, prevent, or treat the condition. In fact, the orphan designation requires that either there is no satisfactory method for the condition, or that the proposed medicine offers significant benefit over such existing methods. For example, because it's more safe or more effective or has otherwise clinical superiority. We regard any medicine that is authorized for the condition as existing method, and in fact as a satisfactory existing method. But there are still, unfortunately, many orphan conditions for which no medicine is authorized. And this can be then described in the application. In any case, beyond medicines, the application also needs to look at other methods for the condition, such as used in the clinic, including surgery and also medical advices. And their use and how far their use is underpinned with data needs to be discussed, including for the question why these existing methods would not be satisfactory. Conversely, when methods exist and are satisfactory, and only then, the orphan designation requires you to demonstrate significant benefit of the proposed orphan medicine over these existing methods. And at the time of application for orphan designation, scientific arguments can be made that are based on assumptions about significant benefit. And the assumptions can be then studied and will need to be demonstrated at the time of marketing authorization application. We are looking for data on significant benefit in terms of a more favorable safety profile of the orphan medicine, higher efficacy, or a major contribution to patient care. And again, preliminary data can be advanced in the application for orphan designation, and later, at the time of marketing authorization, it is expected that data confirm that significant benefit exists. A final section in the scientific part is to describe the stage of the development of your project, and this includes a summary of the scientific development, including which studies were done, which are ongoing, which are planned, the regulatory status, mostly in Europe, but also across the world. So I want to finish this part about how to write the scientific part of the application. I already mentioned that the EMA webpage has relevant guidance for you to consult, but to get an idea of the data and arguments that were used by previous applicants, I recommend to closely watch and read what we systematically make public on our website, in particular the minutes of the Committee of Orphan Medicinal Products and their discussion of such applications, and the Orphan Maintenance Assessment Report.
The Committee for Orphan Medicinal Products, or just short the COMP, will adopt either directly a positive opinion at the monthly meeting, or they will raise a list of questions and invite the applicant for an oral explanation at the next COMP meeting. Thereafter, either a positive or negative opinion will be issued, but in case of negative, the applicant will have the possibility to withdraw the application. The maximum duration of the procedure is 90 days. And the final COMP opinion, negative or positive, is forwarded to the European Commission for the official designation. An orphan designated medicinal product is entered in the community registry, and a public summary of opinion of the designation is published on the EMA website. Applicants, and by the way, they're called sponsors for the orphan designation, withdrawing their applications or receiving a negative opinion can resubmit an orphan drug designation application at any time point. Sponsors of designations need to submit an annual report, and this is a simple exercise done in IRIS, where you state the state of development, but you also have the possibility to be more granular in your update with information on, for example, ongoing clinical studies, a description of the investigational plan for the upcoming year, or any anticipated current problems in the process. You have difficulties in testing, potential changes they may have impact on the medicine, etc.
Protocol assistance is a special form of scientific advice available for developers of designated orphan medicines for rare diseases. Sponsors can request protocol assistance from EMA at any stage of development, after receiving the orphan designation. During protocol assistance, sponsors can raise questions regarding the quality, non-clinical, and clinical development of orphan medicines. Requests can also include questions on the orphan designation compliance criteria, methodological issues, and the overall development strategy. The EMA offers support to applicants in putting their protocol assistance requests together through a free of charge preparatory meeting. Such preparatory meetings are an opportunity for applicants to introduce their proposed development program, receive feedback on the list of questions to be included in the request with a view to obtaining satisfactory answers, identify additional issues to be included in the request, and to obtain more detailed information concerning the protocol assistance procedure. Protocol assistance can also provide guidance on how to demonstrate the criterion of significant benefit for your orphan medicine. Fulfilling the criteria for orphan designation at the time of marketing authorization application will lead to market exclusivity. There is no restriction on the number of times a sponsor can request protocol assistance. In summary, protocol assistance optimizes the evidence generation, and following the advice increases the probability of obtaining a marketing authorization and then making the orphan medicines available to patients. Further information can be found on the EMA website. For further questions, please contact the EMA Scientific Advice Office.
This section is about how to discuss the medicine development for pediatric patients and pediatric populations. Many of the orphan diseases concern already young persons and patients. And we have a provision in the European Union that all medicines that may be relevant for pediatric populations need to be discussed for potential pediatric development with the pediatric committee at the EMA. Similar to the input that you as developers can obtain with the orphan designation process, with the protocol assistance, you will also obtain recommendations and binding requirements when engaging with the pediatric committee about the development of your orphan medicine for pediatric patients. We call this the discussion of the pediatric investigation plan, which would be a proposal by applicants which studies should be undertaken to establish that the medicine can also be used safely and effectively in pediatric patients with a pharmaceutical form that is appropriate for their age. For the pediatric development discussion, applicants and you as developers should be aware that you need to apply for agreement of a pediatric investigation plan, and this application should follow the orphan designation rapidly if the orphan designation is obtained very early. And in any case, there's a legal requirement that the pediatric investigation plan should be agreed before phase 1 trials in adults are completed. And this is why we advise applicants for orphan medicines to come early for agreement of pediatric investigation plans and discussions of pediatric development. There may be situations that the medicine is not appropriate for pediatric patients for reasons of safety concerns or lack of relevance for treatment of pediatric patients. Or in this case, it may be possible that the pediatric development is waived, is not required by the pediatric committee. It is another part of the discussions of a pediatric investigation plan when and how pediatric studies should be conducted. If the pediatric committee agrees that pediatric trials can start after trials with adults, for example, the pediatric committee will issue a deferral. Otherwise, the pediatric committee will also express which details in the conduct of trials with the pediatric populations should be followed so that then the studies lead to establish the data for the medicine to be used in children. Last but not least, where such a pediatric investigation plan is followed and executed, a reward can also be obtained. An incentive here is an extension of the orphan exclusivity by further 2 years for completing a pediatric investigation plan and showing that this plan was completed in compliance with that plan.
The European Medicines Agency has been very proud to operate the Orphan Medicines Regulation since its introduction in 2000, working with an extremely motivated group of experts who constitute the Committee for Orphan Medicinal Products, in addition to healthcare professionals and patient advocacy groups. It has allowed a spotlight to be trained on the wide range of unmet medical needs across the rare disease spectrum, impacting around 30 million people in the EU, and it has encouraged targeted medicines development to address them. Since its inception, it has played a central role in facilitating the development and authorization of over 200 medicines for rare diseases in both adults and children, with hundreds more medicines being actively developed in clinical trials. We strongly believe that obtaining an orphan designation for your development program is a vital first step, which opens up a whole set of follow-on incentives to aid a successful development program. In fact, we encourage you to interact with us regulators frequently, since it's our mission and task to support you developers at any stage of your development program. We hope that this very practical tutorial encourages you to take up this offer for one or more products in your portfolio. By doing so, we believe you will enable a more successful development, allowing your innovative medicines to reach patients suffering from rare diseases and addressing their medical needs.